Did one of Hillary Clinton's aides get caught rigging a congressional hearing? And Donald Trump came out with a foreign policy plan. All this next on The Wise Conservative Show. Broadcasting live from California. Get ready for an hour of pure, unapologetic conservative talk radio. This is The Wise Conservative Show. Welcome to The Wise Conservative Show. I am your host, Connor Wise. A lot has happened in this past week, guys. A lot of presidential race stuff went on. Actually, a lot happened today. And coming out this week, yesterday, actually coming out, new released emails, because they just released a bunch, the FBI did. In these emails, it's suggesting that a senior Hillary Clinton aide tried to stage the questions that was going on at the hearing on the Benghazi terrorist attack. These emails show that the aide was telling Senator Robert Menendez, who at the time was the acting chairman of Foreign Relations, that committee. The email showed that the top aide was feeding questions to this senator. Here's a quote from the email. "We wired it that Menendez would provide an opportunity to address two topics we needed to debunk: her actions/whereabouts on 9/11 and these emails from Chris Stevens about moving locations. Clinton media gatekeeper Philip Raines wrote to Chelsea Clinton." So that's the aide. Philip Raines, that's the top aide. And he was actually emailing Chelsea Clinton on the morning of the hearing, January 23rd, all the way back in 2013. So, do you guys want to take a guess what happened at the hearing? Well, if you guessed that Senator Menendez actually followed this, then you'd be correct. Because why wouldn't the Democratic Party be corrupt? So right out of the gate, the first questions that Menendez even asks are the ones that were fed to him through this email, or the alleged email. He right away asked for insight on the decision-making process regarding the location of the mission. He then added, "Can you also, in your response, you touched upon it in your opening statement, but what actions were you and your staff taking the night of September 11th and into September 12th? Now, the then Secretary of State, so Hillary Clinton, this is her response to it. She told the committee that Ambassador Chris Stevens was committed to not only being in Benghazi, but to the location, and that on the night of the attack, Hillary was notified of the attack shortly after 4 p.m., and over the following hours, they were in continuous meetings and conversations, both within the department, with our team, and within the team in Tripoli, and with the interagency and internationally." Now, this is what she said in the original Benghazi hearing, all the way back in 2013, when I think this was actually the first question asked after her opening statement. And we all know now that this is all a lie. We know now that Hillary Clinton wasn't up all night dealing with this issue, but in fact, she hadn't even bothered to lift a finger about this issue. Her story has changed tremendously over the years. And finally, the truth actually came out because we've seen all of these emails, and we're seeing more and more emails. And she's saying that she was up all night working with agencies in her own department, different countries, the team in Tripoli, to try and save Ambassador Stevens and the other Americans at the consulate. That's just bogus. We know that's a lie. We know that she hasn't done any of that. We know that she wasn't even trying to help him, that she wasn't even trying to save who thought he was her friend, Ambassador Stevens. We know that this is all a lie. And yet she's getting away with having this statement in a congressional hearing. And this is what the Republicans are trying to do. We've tried to actually pursue this. We've recommended that the FBI do an investigation into this. The Republicans in Congress have. Do an investigation into whether she lied in a congressional hearing, which is illegal. We know for a fact that she has lied, but Loretta Lynch didn't approve of this investigation, so it never happened. Loretta Lynch didn't want her own Hillary Clinton, who's going to give her to keep the Attorney General position. She doesn't want that to go away, so she's of course going to protect Hillary Clinton. We've seen this throughout the entire general election, and even the primaries. We have proof that the primaries were rigged. We have proof that Hillary lied on occasion multiple times. We have proof that she's lied about just about every single thing that she's ever been asked about. We have proof that she lied in a hearing, a congressional hearing, which is a crime. It's illegal. She should be in jail for this, or at least fined, stripped of any position. But she walks free, and she has a chance of being the president of the United States. And not only was she just lying in this answer, she had her aide feed questions to the senator that she already had an answer to, a pre-prepared answer to it. This reminds me of the emails that came out in the whole DNC scandal, how they were rigging against Bernie Sanders. This reminds me of how in those emails that were leaked, there was proof of the DNC and Hillary Clinton sending questions to news agencies so that she would have them beforehand. And they could only ask those questions. Hillary Clinton knows that if she is asked real questions on real issues, that she won't have an answer for it. That she won't have a good enough lie for it. Because we all know she's not going to tell the truth no matter what. These emails that are coming out from all this about Hillary Clinton, all of her dealings in the State Department, they're actually not from the FBI, as I mentioned earlier. These emails are coming out from the group Citizens United. They have a ongoing request to the State Department using the Freedom of Information Act to obtain a bunch of emails so that we can actually see what went on when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. So good for them. Good for Citizens United for doing that. Oh, get this. So the senator that I mentioned earlier, Senator Menendez, he is now facing federal public corruption charges. Big shock there. At the time of the hearing, he was about to become chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, who he would have replaced John Kerry. And so he had a good position. He was up at the top of the Democratic Party back then. And big shocker, more corruption in the Democratic Party. It seems like every week, and I know I say this every week, but it seems like every week there's more corruption that's been unveiled about Hillary Clinton and her State Department, or the Democratic Party as a whole. And people don't care. I don't understand it. Why don't people care about this corruption? Why is this not a bigger deal? Why is the only news agency reporting this story Fox News? This should be headlines. This is proof, direct proof of corruption. Why is it not a bigger deal? Is it because we've become so used to corruption within Hillary Clinton's State Department that it's just not a surprise anymore? Is that what it is? Because we should be having a full-blown freak out over all of this corruption that is being discovered. There's no excuse for this. None whatsoever. There is no excuse for this amount of corruption to take place. In any circumstance. In any circumstance whatsoever, you should not be feeding questions to a congressional hearing with pre-prepared answers to it that you know is an obvious lie, that you're going to give to a hearing because you don't want to actually face the truth, that you killed those 4 Americans in Benghazi. And that's the same hearing that she laughed about the deaths of those Americans. That's the same hearing that she said that it didn't make a difference whether she did anything or that those people are dead. It's the same hearing where she actually showed her true self for a little bit when she laughed at those deaths and she said that their deaths didn't matter. That was one of the small times, one of the very few times in any time that she's given a speech or in a hearing or any time. It's one of the few times that she actually showed her true self. Her evil, corrupt self. That hearing really should have warranted more punishment for Hillary Clinton. Because she murdered those people in Benghazi. I don't care if she directly did it. She wasn't the one that pulled the trigger. Okay. But it was her lack of competence that led to their deaths. But she doesn't care whatsoever. I don't understand if she continued to campaign on having a strong foreign policy, because she does this. This is her number one strategy when campaigning is, oh, I have history as Secretary of State. I was a strong Secretary of State. She says this constantly. And people believe it. People buy all of that. Now it's also coming out, changing a little tune here, that Goldman Sachs will now ban employees who give donations to Trump's campaign, but not to people who donate to Clinton's campaign. Here's a quote from one of the people, the uppers in Goldman Sachs. The policy change is also meant to minimize potential reputational damage caused by any false perception that the firm is attempting to circumvent pay-to-play rules, particularly given partners' seniority and visibility. This was in the memo to employees. And then they said, all failures to pre-clear political activities as outlined are taken seriously and they can ban you, basically. And in the actual rule, the actual guideline that they put, not even a guideline, the rule that they put within their company, it says that you can't donate to Trump or Pence, but through a loophole you can donate to Kane because he's not a local politician, a local official under Goldman's rules. But even if you're like, oh, well, Kane isn't a local official, what makes Pence a local official? Well, because he's governor of Indiana, that makes him a local official, and you can't donate to either Trump or to Pence. And if you do, you get banned. You know, I love all the people who, and this happens, I love all the people who say that Donald Trump is the person that's standing with the banks because, you know, he's rich. So obviously he's the one that's not going to stand up to Goldman Sachs and all of these other banks. But this is proof, once again, that Hillary Clinton is in it with the banks. Oh, we've had it before when she got paid, I don't know the exact amount, but an extreme amount for giving a couple speeches for Goldman Sachs. Throughout her time in Congress, she always promoted bills that Goldman Sachs would have liked, or they did, in fact, have a say in. Hillary Clinton is in Goldman Sachs. She's in bed with Goldman Sachs. That's the only way to put it. But according to Democrats and the left, because Donald Trump is rich, which, by the way, Hillary Clinton is too, then he's obviously in bed with Goldman Sachs, and he's not going to stop Wall Street and all of this. He's not going to stand up for the common folk. You know, looking at all of Hillary Clinton's past, at her entire past, there hasn't been one time when I've actually seen her stand up for normal Americans, for middle-class Americans. There hasn't been one time that I've seen this. Yet she continues to claim that she's the one that's standing up for middle-class Americans. She's the one that continues to claim that she has already fought for middle-class Americans. And I've tried to look into this. I've looked into this. I've tried to find a time when she has stood up for normal, average Americans. And I just can't find it. Because instead of trying to help middle-class Americans, she wants to raise taxes on them because they make too much money, even though she is a millionaire. But middle-class Americans make too much money for her. She wants to put lower-class Americans out of jobs. She doesn't want to help anyone. I honestly cannot see one time when she has helped anyone besides her own political interests. That's it. That's all she's helped. Her own political interests. And that includes Goldman Sachs. That includes all of Wall Street. It includes other allies within the Democratic Party. Anyone who she is able to corrupt, just like herself. It includes anyone who donates to the Clinton Foundation. We talked about that probably 3 or 4 weeks ago now. We talked about all of those connections between the Clinton Foundation and the helping with passing bills in Congress and all of that as her time as a senator from New York. The list just goes on and on and on of how many times she has actually helped special interests instead of the American people. But something else happened this past week that I didn't think I was going to see for a long time. You know, on this show, we've been extremely criticizing Hillary Clinton for not having any press conferences for 270 some days. She finally had an impromptu yesterday. She had an impromptu news conference on her plane. Now, it wasn't much. I have her actual portion of it that I'm going to play for you guys right now, so take a listen.
Has been bankrupted in his company 6 times. He's been sued about 4,000 times. He's been accused repeatedly of fraudulent behavior. His so-called Trump University is under investigation right now. Because of the way it has scammed so many students who thought they'd get a better opportunity in life. And we've recently learned that his Trump Foundation has been fined for illegal activity when it made a political contribution.
Okay, I have to stop this. Trump Foundation, I've never even heard of Trump Foundation, but Trump Foundation is doing illegal activities. You know what I think happened here? She's like, oh, people are criticizing me for the Clinton Foundation being the most corrupt organization there is, so I'm going to just say that Donald Trump is more corrupt in his foundation, which I've never even heard of the Trump Foundation. I've never heard of these claims that is being investigated for conducting illegal activities. I'd really like to see her source on that.
To the Attorney General of Florida, at the time she was being asked by her constituents to investigate Trump University because of the effects that these people that she's responsible for had experienced. And of course, as we know, there was a phone conversation between them they contradict each other. The American people deserve to know what was said because clearly the Attorney General did not proceed with the investigation.
The American people deserve to know what is in all of her
emails. The Washington
emails.
Post has a long list of many of the behaviors, the experiences, the activities that Trump is engaged in that raise serious questions. The New York Times discovered about $650 million owed to foreign banks and foreign entities. And
the New York Times is the one that I went over last week that has been proven to be swaying towards Hillary Clinton.
We know about his relationships with the Kremlin, his own and those of people with whom he has worked. And truly, the list goes on and on. The scams, the frauds, the questionable relationships, the business activities that have stiffed workers, refused to pay small businesses. So clearly, his tax returns tell a story that the American people deserve and need to know.
Okay, the next minute of this is just her repeating that, basically. Her saying it in different fancy ways that she prepared beforehand. And again, I don't understand why they keep going back to these tax returns. And actually, just coming out today, Donald Trump said that in his speech on rebuilding the U.S. military, he addressed this. He said that that if Hillary Clinton releases all of those deleted emails, she finds a way to release all of them, then he'll release his tax returns. And that was good of him, because you know what? No one cares about those tax returns. I don't understand why Hillary Clinton and her entire campaign has continued to focus on those tax returns when it's a non-issue. No one cares. No one cares what Donald Trump paid in taxes in the last year. The only people who care are you, Hillary. Your entire campaign. You're the only people that care. And so she spent another minute of this news conference. Afterwards, they asked questions, and she basically said in all of the answers that Donald Trump is worse than her. That's basically her answer for everything. That his tax returns are important. She answered that a couple times. After 270 some days of not having a press conference, a news conference, this was what she came up with. To say, ha, look at that, I've had a news conference. A 7-minute conference on her plane in between rallies. That's all she came up with. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has entire events of news conferences because he actually talks to them and answers those questions because he's not afraid of what he has to say. He's not afraid of what they're going to ask him because he doesn't have a corrupt past like Hillary Clinton. Alright, I have to take a quick commercial break, guys. After the break, more stuff is coming up over the ransom that was paid a month or so back. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show.
And that, class, is why America is the worst country in the history of the world.
Are you sick of your professors telling you lies?
Now remember, children, if you're white, it means you're privileged. Don't ever forget that.
Do you sit through class convinced that your head is going to explode at any given moment? Sounds like you could use some backup. Visit youthrevolt.org for exclusive content produced by young conservatives for young conservatives. Youth Revolt features a dedicated team of radio hosts, political columnists, and video bloggers, all of whom are 100% committed to taking back the future of this country. So what are you waiting for? Tune out your Marxist professor and visit youthrevolt.org now.
8 years with Obama, and now no one knows what bathroom to use.
The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Only on Youth Revolt.
Tune in to Millennials Rising, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday nights, for a conservative outlook on pop culture and American politics. Together we can reinstitute values back into our nation's young people and help create an alternative path away from the mainstream liberal agenda. Tune in to Millennials Rising, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday nights, only on Youth Revolt. The idea behind Youth Revolt is to let them, these liberal professors, let them know that we are here and we're ready to fight.
Youth Revolt. Speak without fear.
Hey, little boy, you want some free college?
Bernie Sanders, that creepy uncle your mom warned you about. The Wise Conservative Show. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Only on Youth Revolt.
Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. Now, before the break, I promised that we'd be talking about new info coming out about the ransom payment to Iran. It's all coming out now that there was actually more than just $400,000 that was given to Iran as this ransom, which we've proven that it's a ransom through the planes and all of the hostages and all that. Now, it's coming out that there was actually $1.7 billion dollars that was given to Iran for the same deal to have these prisoners released. And this isn't just because I know originally Obama said that this was a part of a $1.7 billion deal, but he didn't actually say that the $1.7 billion was given for the same exchange. Well, now the White House is acknowledging that the full $1.7 billion payment was made entirely in cash for the same deal. On January 17th, that's when Iran released the 4 hostages. That's when the $400 million was transferred. And then the $1.7 billion was also, the remaining $1.3 billion was delivered on January 22nd and February 5th, just days after this release. So, I mean, we were already angry, Republicans, and it should be liberals too. Everyone should be angry about this. But we are already angry about $400,000 being used as ransom money. But it was actually $1.7 billion that they paid as ransom to the number one sponsor of terror, to Iran. People that have written death to or have said death to America, and have written threats to Israel on the side of ballistic missiles. This wasn't just $400,000 for 4 hostages. Nope. $1.7 billion. And the White House has confirmed that it was this amount of money that was transferred towards to Iran. Now that Congress is back from its summer recess, since they take a while off during summer, now that they're back, on the first day, Marco Rubio and in the House, Ed Royce from California, a Republican, they both introduced bills that would crack down on such payments for in the future. Rubio said in a statement the U.S. government should not be in the business of negotiating with terrorists and paying ransom money in exchange for the release of American hostages. His proposal would bar the U.S. government from paying ransom and would prohibit further payments to Iran from this fund that they're saying this is coming from until Iran returns all of this ransom money and pays the American victims of Iranian terrorism, which there's a lot. Royce, his bill would just bar cash payments to Iran completely. He said, "What on earth was the White House thinking? Sending the world's leading state sponsor of terror pallets of untraceable cash isn't just terrible policy. It's incredibly reckless, and it only puts bigger targets on the backs of Americans." And he hit it right on the nail right on the head there. This is untraceable money that we sent, because this is cash. We don't know what they're using all of this $1.7 billion on, and it's probably going towards their new nuclear program that we let them have, to be perfectly honest. So they're spending this $1.7 billion on whatever they want. We don't know what it is. We don't have any say in where this goes. And we already know that they hate America. We already know that they hate Israel. We already know that they would take the first chance they could to launch a nuclear weapon at either of us, at Israel or us. They're already going to be holding a hearing on this on Thursday, so tomorrow. The House Financial Services Oversight Subcommittee. That's a long name. They're holding a hearing tomorrow examining the payment. The chairman of the subcommittee said the big problem is that the cash is untraceable, as I just said. I mean, this has been in the news. It's come back and forth. It's gone out of the news for a week, come back. But this is big news that it was actually $1.7 billion given to Iran. And not only is that bad going to a specific country, Iran, of course that's horrible, we don't have the money to give them $1.7 billion. I mean, we're $19.4 trillion in debt, folks. We can't afford to be giving them millions upon billions of dollars. $1.7 billion was given to them. Where was this money coming from? Because I've looked at our budget and it does not have a spot for giving money to Iran. It does not have a spot for paying ransom money. I'd like to know where they actually got this money from. And that's what that subcommittee is going to be looking into. They're going to be looking into where exactly this money was gotten from. They're going to be looking into why we actually did it in the first place, if it actually was ransom, which we all know that it was. So this subcommittee is actually pretty important. So we'll have to see how that committee turns out. But as I said earlier, today Trump unveiled a plan to boost the U.S. military if he is president. He's been having a lot of policy speeches lately, and it's been turning out really well. Today he unveiled the plan while calling for a new strategy to defeat the Islamic State. He's been focusing on national security a lot lately because he knows that that's his strongest point. In the speech, he called Clinton trigger-happy and very unstable, which I think we all can agree on with that point. And then he said, quote, "This is Hillary Clinton's foreign policy legacy. Failure and death." He said this before referencing the notes from the FBI probe into her private email server that show, quote, "She is totally unfit to be our commander-in-chief." For his own policy, he went into details. He outlined a number of proposals, so I have a list of them here. The proposals are asking military generals to present a plan within 30 days to defeat and destroy ISIS immediately after taking office, asking Congress to eliminate the defense sequester, building an active army of about 540,000, building a Marine Corps base on 36 battalions, building a navy nearing 350 surface ships and submarines, building an air force of at least 1,200 fighter aircraft, implementing a new state-of-the-art missile defense system. So that's the points that he hit throughout his speech. If it was anything, I didn't personally watch this speech. I didn't have time to today. I'll probably watch it actually after I get off the air tonight. But if he went into the same details as he did with his immigration speech last week, which he gave on Wednesday, then it's a well-detailed plan, and it actually has proof that it could work. Trump said that the increase in spending would come from cuts in waste and streamlining bureaucracy. See, that's another thing. He has proposed a lot of cuts on taxes, so we're not going to have as much revenue. Now, don't get me wrong. I am all for less taxes, lower taxes. So it's actually, but I mean, until this point, he hasn't actually said how he's going to pay for all of this extra military or these other programs that he's trying to implement. So it's good that he finally actually touched on that. I mean, this is what anyone would say, though, that's coming from cuts in waste and from streamlining bureaucracy. That's the default answer. So we're really going to have to see how this works out with funding situations. Today, though, Clinton felt a little left out. She released a list of endorsements from retired generals and admirals. Surprisingly, she has 95 retired generals and admirals backing her candidacy, which actually tops Trump's 88 retired military leaders. Now, this surprises me, because we all know that Hillary Clinton has a horrible, horrible foreign policy record. We all know that she has not proven any greatness in that regard. So I am definitely surprised that 95 of these retired generals and admirals actually support her. And talking about Trump's, I talked about his immigration speech last week. Well, the UK is now taking a page from Trump's immigration plan. They are building a big new wall to stop illegal immigrants. Robert Goodwill, the Minister of State for Immigration in the UK, he announced the plan for a wall in Calais, France, or however you pronounce it. He announced it at a Home Affairs Committee hearing on Tuesday, saying that it would be in addition to an already existing fence. He said, quote, "We're going to start building this big new wall very soon. We've done the fence. Now we're doing a wall." And now we all know that Donald Trump was the first one really to bring up a wall in this election cycle. He's the one that's... now, he's not the first one to propose it, but he's the first one to actually talk about it tremendously, to focus an entire campaign around it. And obviously walls have worked in other countries, such as Israel. I can't tell you how many times I've referenced that when talking about border walls. Their wall has worked great. Mexico has a wall on their southern border between Guatemala and themselves. So border walls obviously work. So apparently between the city in France and the UK, there's a lot of illegal immigrants going through there. It's been a frequent issue of tension between the UK and France. Many in the UK are actually concerned that the French aren't doing enough to keep migrants from passing through, hence the wall. The report that this is referencing said that the situation remained a threat to UK security, and noted that the most common nationalities of migrants at that city are Syrian, Sudanese, Iranian, and Iraqi. It also found that between 5,000 and 7,000 migrants live in camps surrounding the area. Now, we all know that border fences are great. We all know that they're perfect for protecting a country. And it seems like the UK lately has really been getting their ducks in a row. First with Brexit, getting a conservative prime minister in there too. And now, with this border wall. Now, of course, this wall will not be actually going along the entire border. It's actually going to just be going along a road that the migrants often use. But this is a step in the right direction for the UK, definitely. Up next, after this quick break, a lot of polls are putting Donald Trump ahead. I'll have all the data on that for you guys. And then also, Chicago has a few more homicides than they used to. I'll talk about all of that coming up after this quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show.
Hi, everybody. This week, I want to make sure that you're aware of a group of young people that are out to reverse my fundamental transformation of America. This organization is called Youth Revolt. And before I go any further, I must urge folks not to visit youthrevolt.org. Now, Michelle and I, we're both gravely concerned that if this group succeeds, our children may not grow up to see the Marxist country that we will hopefully one day become. So I repeat, do not visit youthrevolt.org. And remember, I've got a pen and I've got a phone, and I will use them if I have to. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
I don't feel no ways tired. You know? Don't let anybody tell you that, it's corporations and businesses that create jobs.
Hillary Clinton, just another political clown. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt.
And that, class, is why America is the worst country in the history of the world.
Are you sick of your professors telling you lies?
Now remember, children, if you're white, it means you're privileged. Don't ever forget that.
Do you sit through class convinced that your head is going to explode at any given moment? Sounds like you could use some backup. Visit youthrevolt.org for exclusive content produced by young conservatives for young conservatives. Youth Revolt features a dedicated team of radio hosts, political columnists, and video bloggers, all of whom are 100% committed to taking back the future of this country. So what are you waiting for? Tune out your Marxist professor and visit youthrevolt.org now.
Hey, little boy, you want some free college?
Bernie Sanders, that creepy uncle your mom warned you about. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt.
Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. I am your host, Connor Wise. Now, Donald Trump has made a comeback in the polls. According to the latest CNN poll, Trump is now leading Hillary Clinton 45 to 43% in a four-way race between Gary Johnson and Stein. And actually, in the average of all the polls, it is definitely closed up. Now, we all know that just a few weeks ago, at the beginning of August, Clinton had an 8-point lead in the CNN poll over Donald Trump. It has definitely been bad over the past few weeks, but with all of the scandals and all of the corruption going on, and with Donald Trump making nice, organized, on-topic speeches about his policies, he is definitely rising. Overall, in the Real Clear Politics average, Hillary Clinton is only up 2.1 points. Now, this is in the four-way race between Johnson and Stein, Trump and Clinton. So, with all of them actually factored in, Clinton is only 2.1 points up. That is an easy gap to close, especially if Donald Trump continues to stay on topic like he has been. This is definitely a marking point for another comeback. He's been ahead of Hillary Clinton in the past for a week. And then it got really bad when he started going off topic. But I really think this new campaign manager that he put into place is really helping him. Because look at all of his speeches in the past couple weeks. He has had well thought out speeches that, obviously he didn't write them, but his speechwriters have kept him on topic. He has had informational speeches about all of his policies, the details of his policy, which he has lacked until now. That's something that I had criticized him about in the past. He hadn't had any details on anything. But now he actually has details on his most important plans, his military plan and his immigration plan, which are the two that he has campaigned on the most. This is definitely a good time for Donald Trump and conservatives alike. Because we can easily close that 2.1% gap between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. We just need to keep pushing. This will be a close general election. It definitely will be. We're going to have to really keep our eyes open and our ears open to see how this election turns out. But, we all have that favorite city of Chicago to use for our anti-gun control arguments. I know personally I've used it a lot. I know a lot of people that have used it a lot in debates. And we're just being proven more and more right. This year alone, to this point in the year, there have already been 500 homicides in Chicago. Now, this is a tremendous increase, and it's the largest amount of homicides in a year since the 90s. So their homicide rate is actually increasing at this point in time. And this actually comes right after, all this data comes after the Illinois governor, Bruce Rauner, he just signed more gun control into legislation. So, I think there's definitely a correlation between that. There's a group, an independent task force is accusing the police department of institutional racism and saying that that's why the murders are so high. Because there's institutional racism in Chicago. And that they, quote, have no regard for the sanctity of life when it comes to people of color. This is the same arguments that we've seen time and time again for excuses of thugs. Chicago is full of people who have gotten their hands illegally on weapons, and they've used them against these people who are defenseless. They've used them against all of these people who can't own weapons because of strict gun control. Time after time, it has been proven that gun control does not work. It's been proven that gun control makes life more dangerous. That it puts loved ones at stake of being killed by someone with an illegally obtained weapon. This is further proof of this. And again, Chicago is this uber liberal place, so some of them are blaming all of this violence on economic struggles, saying that it's solely due to economic policies. And you know what? That does have a part in it. That is a part in the gangs, definitely. But unemployment is actually going down in Chicago. It's down to 5.5% this year, and it was at 6.1% last year. So it's actually going down. But you know what? I do partially agree with this. Economic struggles is a part of it. That's why there's so many gangs and thugs running around. But let's take a look at the people who have put those hurtful policies into place that have led to these economic struggles. It's not the mean, racist conservatives, Republicans that everyone likes to blame. It's Democrats. They're the ones that run Chicago. They're the ones that run Illinois. They're the ones that have put these policies into place. They're the reason why Chicago is the way it is. They're the reason why it's so dangerous. It's not Republicans' fault. It's not guns' fault. It's the Democrats behind all of these laws that are taking away rights and are taking away safety. It's all put onto the Democrats here. It's all their fault. Because they somehow think that taking away people's guns is going to help. Or they somehow think that putting all these policies that hurt the economy of Chicago, limiting businesses, raising minimum wages, all of this that hurts businesses and hurts people trying to employ people, they somehow think that that's helping. They're delusional. That's all it is. They are delusional in both of those senses. But moving it to another uber-liberal place, California. There's now a Planned Parenthood-backed bill, and this surprised me, that the ACLU is attacking. California lawmakers have okayed a Planned Parenthood-backed bill which would create new penalties for distributing secret recordings of discussions with health providers. Now, this is in response to the videos of Planned Parenthood people discussing what they're going to get for the compensation for baby limbs. All of those videos. This is in response to that. The bill passed Friday. It's now on Governor Jerry Brown's desk. He hasn't okayed or vetoed it yet. It targets, obviously, the people who tried to put out the exposure against Planned Parenthood. And, I don't know, people don't believe that video for some reason. Planned Parenthood is trying to say that because there's so much freedom on the internet and with our phones and all that, that it's just dangerous to be able to record healthcare providers. That's basically what their statement said. I don't understand how that works. The ACLU said, quote, "We know of no legitimate governmental reason for singling out disclosure of all healthcare provider communications for special criminal sanctions, making the bill vulnerable not only on First Amendment grounds, but also on equal protection grounds." So this basically gives healthcare providers a privilege. They can just say, no, you're not going to record me, and you can't. Even if it's obvious to expose something that should be exposed, such as Planned Parenthood, or even a corrupt doctor that you're trying to that's just handing out random prescriptions to people, strong prescriptions just because they asked, and you want to expose that. This bill would criminalize that exposure. Instead of the doctor being stripped of his practice, you would be fined and possibly sent to jail for it. So the Los Angeles Times editorial board is also coming out in arms against this. They called the move to give healthcare providers special protection mystifying and accused the lawmakers behind this of pandering to special interests. This only passed in the legislature because there's so many Democrats in it here in California. People just voted on party lines. But what I don't understand, people have gone on record, these Democrats have gone on record to say that they don't agree with this bill that they just voted to pass. I don't understand how people can... They don't agree with what's inside it. They say that it shouldn't be passed, but then they vote on party lines so that they can pass it? Something is obviously... They're getting paid off or something by Planned Parenthood so that they pass this bill. That's what's happening. That's obviously what's happening. Because if you disagree with the bill, you're not going to vote for it. Period. If you don't agree with it, you won't vote for it. That's how it should work. But that's not how this bill was passed. A lot of Democrats have said that they don't like this bill, that it takes it to an extreme, which it does. This bill is an extreme. It criminalizes people for trying to expose corruption or greed or what have you. It criminalizes people for trying to expose this. I don't understand. Planned Parenthood is just... It's one of the worst organizations in our country. There's no doubt about that. I don't understand how anyone can support it. The videos prove that they're selling baby parts after they murder them. And now they're forcing bills through state legislature so that they can get whatever they want. I don't understand how anyone would ever vote for it. I just don't. It's a horrible bill. It should never have even been passed. I really hope that Jerry Brown vetoes this, because it's a horrible thing to have as law in California. But hey, it's California. It's probably not going to get vetoed. This is one of the most liberal states there is. Alright, that's all I have for today's episode of The Wise Conservative Show. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in once again. You can find us on youthrevolt.org, Facebook, just go to Youth Revolt on Facebook, Spreaker.com/TheWiseConservative, Instagram at @the_wise_conservative. And as always, thank you, and God bless.